have our full complement of 4. So here, a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Agenda is approved. First item, do we have any community announcements or public comments on items not on the agenda? We actually have a member of the public with us today. What you got?
Can we do that in the rules?
So we haven't approved it yet. So would it be that people are allowed until we kick them out if we approve it? How does that work, Scott? Well, because we had adopted,
360.
but I think that was more than 30 days ago. Okay, it's fine. We're fine. We're not going to jail. Lynn, what you got for us?
Okay, I just wanted to let everybody know it is in the board packet about the CHP toy drive and the first annual Christmas tree event. So that will be happening over in our event center on the 17th. It is for the Kern County community, Mojave, Roseman, Boron, Tehachapi. So we're hoping to have a good turnout. We've got over 25 trees that will be decorated and raffled off to the parents of the children that show up. And right now our toy drive is looking pretty good. So hopefully this will be like the first of many more events to come.
So can you help me understand a little bit more about this event? So are folks going to show up, decorate the trees, bring decorations, bring presents? How does it work?
Yes, so CHP is doing their normal annual toy drive. So they have their boxes placed throughout the county. They'll be collecting them, bringing them to the event center. We have been collecting Christmas trees. We have volunteers that will be arriving on the 15th, 16th to decorate them. We will have the trees decorated. Volunteers will be there. Some of the vendors are actually showing up to decorate their own trees as well.
And they'll be raffled off the event?
Mm-hmm. They will be raffled off, yep. So we'll have raffle tickets to the families coming in, and then we'll have bags that they'll be able to drop their tickets in. And then we also have like other items that will be raffled off, like 1 month free membership to the gym. We have 51-pound bags of Starbucks coffee. We've got some toys with buckets from Home Depot has donated trees. Lowe's has donated buckets with some toys in it for kids. So, we'll have several items that will be able to be given away and raffled off to the people that come. Plus, we'll have pictures with Santa, of course, at no charge. And then we'll have hot chocolate and coffee for everybody.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking about it.
You're welcome.
And do we have any other community announcements, public comment, items not on the agenda? Anybody online? All right, on to the consent agenda then. So we have minutes and a check register. Does anybody wish to discuss? Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Andy.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed. Consent agenda is approved. Action items. Our favorite recurring action item. Scott, would you please refresh our memories?
So AB 361 is the law that is in effect until 2024 that allows agencies to conduct meetings without following certain specified provisions of the Brown Act. The purpose of it is to encourage social distancing, particularly for those who are vulnerable or who may be sick or may have been exposed. In order to use the provisions of AB 361, an agency must adopt it every 30 days. It is an entirely discretionary item. If you don't do AB 361, then you follow all the standard Brown Act rules for notices, agendas, and meetings.
So we have every reason to expect that we're going to have a full complement of board members beginning on the 9th, which is when the Kern County elections end and are certified. I would really like to recommend that we don't renew this for the sake of having more people be able to be involved. It doesn't mean we don't have to, it doesn't mean we need to discontinue our online component too. I think that's great to give people more options, but I'm in favor of more options for public participation. And I think not renewing this time would allow for that. And we don't have the liability of missing board meetings as readily as what we were susceptible to with having only 4 board members.
The 9th of December, just to clarify.
Yes.
Right.
Well, actually, some of the meetings that were canceled, that was because they couldn't Zoom call in some of the board members. So some of the meetings were canceled because that was not in place, and that we reverted back to the COVID Act.
Yeah, Director Coleman is correct on that,
Right.
and that's because under AB 361, well, under the Standard Brown Act rules, you have to have 3 directors who are present within the district's boundaries. They don't have to be present in person at the meeting, but within the boundaries, and we did not have that. Under AB 361, you're not required to have the 3 directors within the district's boundaries. They can be anywhere in the world. So,
Point taken. And I think that was a very reasonable thing to bring up. But the reason that we have this option isn't for the sake of allowing us to travel more readily. As somebody who does need to periodically travel for work, yes, this would, not facilitate me participating as much if I can't work my work schedule around. But I really do believe our priority should be public involvement.
Well, actually, if we invoke to continue the COVID status, it's more restrictive than travel. The normal rules are more permissive.
Sorry, don't.
As far as being in the district. So, for instance, am I correct? In other words, you have to have 3 members physically in the district. They don't have to be in this room. They have to be in the district. That rule does not apply if you go back to the Brown Act rule.
no, that's the Brown Act rule. AB 361 says you don't have to have any directors present within
In
the
the
district's
district?
boundaries.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying.
Yeah.
Right, and as a technicality, right, if we do adopt this, we're technically not allowed to have members of the public physically in attendance at the meeting.
It is to promote social distancing. That's true. The other thing is that if directors are appearing remotely under the Standard Brown Act rules, then we need to put their addresses on the agenda, and they can only participate from a place that is publicly accessible. So that's the other thing.
Okay.
Any comment from members of the public before we vote, or before we? Somebody wants to chime in? Do I hear a motion?
I want to be away with it too. So procedurally, how it works is the board has to take affirmative action to use AB 361. So if there's no motion, then there's no action, and you're back to Standard Brown Act rules.
Right.
And we can bring this up every meeting if we feel like something has changed. Next time we can change it.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll give everybody every opportunity. Do I hear a motion? Nope. Okay. All right. To be revisited at the next meeting then. Action item B. Scott, are you taking that one too? Are you taking all of these except for the last one?
Probably Lynn and I are.
All right, because you've been tagged
unless-
in all of them.
Yeah. I am, aren't I? Okay, great. So as part of the Maston, I'm going to have to look at the draft agendas more closely next time. As part of the Maston bankruptcy, Astrobotics did an asset purchase agreement, and the assets that Astrobotics purchased included Maston's leases with the district. It's a bankruptcy proceeding, so we have limited discretion in this. We have gone through the assignment agreements with counsel for Maston and Astrobotics, and I'm comfortable with how they are drafted. Astrobotics will step into the shoes of Maston and will have all the same obligations as Maston. Nothing is changing in terms of the rights, obligations, and terms of the lease agreement. It is just a new party who will become the tenant. These are also month-to-month leases, all except one. There has been some discussion about maybe negotiating term leases, but right now they're all just month-to-month leases anyway. So our request is that the board would officially approve the assignments and we can move on with Astrobotics.
Comment. How much estimate of how much the Mojave Airport's going to lose because the Maston bankruptcy, is that in the hundreds of thousands or?
Oh,
kind
no.
of-
So the
Okay.
rent
Yeah.
was, I think, about 23,000.
Yeah.
And then as far as building 86, I don't know if we have a final number on that, but I would say that probably the district's total exposure or total claim, how about
Okay.
this? Total claim
Mhm.
is under 100,000.
Okay.
And under the current bankruptcy plan, it's estimated that we will get 6.9% of our claim. So if it's 100,000, then we'll get 7%.
93.
So anyway, so
Yeah.
so yes, there will be money that the district
Mhm.
will lose, but at this point in time, it looks like it'll be under 100,000.
Well, I just know that like the ex-core that went bankrupt and cleared out, they owed a lot of money in this company. So what ways could we probably prevent this in the future? Is that kind of a ideal world where that doesn't happen or this happens all the time? Is that what you found?
Yes,
Yeah.
this happens a lot,
Okay.
and this has happened a number of times at Mojave.
Mhm.
We are what is considered an unsecured creditor. So, I mean, I suppose I could look at whether or not we could claim security interest in their personal equipment. But generally, with these types of bankruptcies, it's the cost of doing business.
Mhm.
And that is because there is a general legal policy, a bankruptcy policy, that sometimes it's more efficient to wrap up businesses or allow businesses to reorg in this way, even though there are others who may take a loss.
So there's no easy way to get near the top of the claim list when they
Only if
distribute
you're a
the money.
secured creditor.
Okay, so that's the downside of Mojave.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
understand. Thank you.
Well, is there any downside to this? I mean, I see no issue with
We-
letting Astrobotics assume the lease.
Yeah. Is this an information item? This is, that's correct.
Okay.
So one of
So
them
we need a
requires the
motion.
board approval.
Mhm.
That's why that shows is the only lease listed, but when you use that number, it lists the other leases, that states that they're in the bankruptcy court approval.
I move to approve the lease assignment.
All those in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry. What?
Discussion.
Public discussion. Oh. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Item Charlie.
TIS Hours is an offshoot of FRI.
Yeah, is Desires an offshoot of FRI? I
It's,
thought it was an independent entity.
it is, but it's spun out
All right, so
tangentially.
Heritage,
Some of the same Oh, people. what? It's not a legal Oh, okay. affiliate
Okay.
or I didn't hear that. Yeah, it's not a legal affiliate, but it's some of the same people who are involved in FRI.
I'll try to
Anyway.
stick up for you.
Yeah.
Jim.
I think I wrote my slide. They are doing a sublease with Boom, and I don't know that I know what Boom does.
It's a
Supersonic.
supersonic airliner.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so this lease requires board approval to do a sublease. So we're here to ask the board to approve that.
Just by virtue of it being a long-term lease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The question is, Is the sublease like the whole hangar or part of the hangar, or what is that?
It's a portion of their hangar
Okay.
and their office space within the building. So FRI will also be occupying the rest of the building.
Okay. So FR is going to continue to pay their monthly lease, and then Boom's going to pay FRR, or does Boom go directly to us?
Actually,
Okay.
the lease is under the name of salary.
Okay.
And so they will continue to pay their lease to us, and they are in good standing, and then will pay them directly.
Okay.
All coordination of the operations will come through the airport like any other normal tenant, and then we will be subject to all of the terms of the salaries lease.
Okay.
But Tisauer maintains the lease obligation in the event that Boom disappears, for instance. Absolutely.
Right.
I move to approve the lease agreement, the
Second.
sublet agreement.
Second.
All those in favor? say
Public comment, sorry.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to ask.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Delta.
All right, so this one, it may appear a little funky, but it's a timing issue. Tisauers is selling to the National Test Pilot School. I know we just approved a sublease with Tisauers, but Tisauers is selling. The deal is not completed. So,
Tisauers is going to be owned by NTPS as well?
yes.
Okay.
So, what we are asking is the assignment of Tisauers lease to NTPS contingent upon the purchase agreement being completed and closing. And staff is fine with this
Yeah.
and recommends approval.
Okay, so this is an action item. And
It
so
is.
We're approving the ability of NTPS to.
For the same reason you had to approve this sublease, you have to approve the assignment.
So this is our business because they're taking over their leases, not
Yes.
necessarily purchase, but that purchase includes long-term leases.
Yes.
Okay.
It's similar to Astrobotics in Maston, where in the asset purchase agreement, they acquired these leases.
Just for clarity for me, so if we approve this, that sublet assigned lease to Sowers is then absorbed by National Test Pilot School. Oh,
Yep.
it just follows the flow.
Yes.
So the money paid for the lease of the buildings isn't going to change. It's basically they're working through Test Pilot School to flow the money here.
The
So
terms
it's
of,
similar to the other hangar, the RFI hangar.
exactly. We're just changing the name on the lease.
Okay.
Public comment. No public comment. No way. I really hope people speak up if they're listening.
I move
Like,
to approve the assignment.
do you hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Approved. And so that means we're on our last items here after that, Scott. Chuck, on to you.
Okay.
What you
Okay.
got for us?
All right. Well, noticing that when I came into the office 2 years ago, we had the problem with our hangars. Yeah, they're kind of trashy and everything, but part of my incentive for becoming a board of director was I wanted to save the hangars. That didn't work out, and it was a sad day when this happened. I mean, I was hoping that at least this hangar we could have unbolted and moved it to another part of the airport because the cost of the hangars are, wow, they're really expensive. So this alone was a great hangar to reposition. So those days are gone. The whole thing is gone. The whole row is gone. And what kind of still gets to me is 927 still there. So if the FAA was real adamant, oh, you got to tear the hangars down, click, 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 they seem to be okay with this hangar remaining. So this isn't part of my presentation, but it's kind of like, okay, why'd we tear the hangars down when we can keep this hangar up? And I'm not asking for an answer, but why didn't we save all the hangars then? And then we could have maybe worked out with the FAA a way to save them all. Because we're talking $1 million or more in money that those hangars would have cost if we were to rebuild them and everything. So it's just when, okay, they're gone. This one might be gone soon, but next objective is let's build some new hangars. And then I lived up in Vacaville, at the Vacaville Airport. I don't know how many of you were familiar with this. It's got 5,000-foot strip, a lot of hangars, tie-down spots. And Icon Aircraft, they built a facility there that they added a taxiway to get to the runway and that. So they're very welcoming community because Icon used to be attached, being Vacaville brought them on board. But then said, hey, we need some new hangars. And they said, wow, that's a good spot for some new hangars. And they intended 2 rows of hangars. So a lot of airports, I've been to hundreds of airports. Almost every airport, I can't find an exception, they're building hangars. So I'm trying to understand why Mojave's not building hangars like other airports are. And so I take pictures when I'm flying and stuff like this, and this is the last one I got. So March of 2018, it was still grass, and they weren't really prepared to build hangars at that time. So think March 2018. Then later that day, wow, look at the construction's going up. So 6 months later or so, they're building structure. And these
the concrete's done too.
What's that?
And the concrete's done.
Right. So there's the concrete. So they had 2 rows of hangars, and the total units are 26 units. So that's 2 rows of hangars doing that.
What size units?
They're about 1,000 square feet or so. So they're 2 hangars, right? And so this is one process. Yeah, they could have been box hangars or whatever, but the Vacaville Airport said, "Hey, let's build some hangars." So let me go back to this. Whoops, skipped ahead too much. Okay, so you can see March 2018. Boom, December they're building, and then December they're building. Concrete's going in. Boom, January 7th. Construction 2 rows, it's raining up there sometimes. And here we are, less than a year later after I took that picture. So, well, what do you see?
They got water in them.
Well, it was raining, and I put water in there to wash out the dust and that.
Oh,
But it's dry. They actually have a lot of drainage. You'll see in future pictures if there's drainage, so please don't let that a negative in that. So
You washed it out for the picture.
not for the picture, I just wash it out for my own use. But here's new hangars built in a year, and I know we've had quotes and everything like that, but I'm saying, wow, Vacaville built hangars from grass on the property to 26 hangars. And so there we were, and I paid $350 a month for that hangar, and it's probably up, $400 something by now. But they did it in 2 months. So March 2018, boom. March 2019, that. So I don't know if there's any other people that could add in how long it takes to build hangars, but this shows that they can do it in a year. Then I talked with the airport manager, who's a fresh manager, and Tim's talked to him too before, and we're getting some numbers. So these are 2 hangars with 26 units in it. So, you could do 1 unit or whatever on a property, but they had a $1.7 million budget in 2019. They were all loans, so they didn't use any of their capital. They just got all loans for the hangars. And the county, Solano County, grant fund, general fund gave them a $1.6 million, and they got some from Caltrans. And so if you do the equations, it's $65,000 each for each unit. If you divide that by 26 and that.
Do you have the details on how they got the Caltrans money?
yeah, that's the one thing.
Yeah, I don't know, and
Like
Tim
some kind
might
of grant, or
be able to tell us that.
is it a Caltrans loan?
It's a loan, actually. And the max of that loan is $300,000.
And then there were
Let me
other.
ask
yeah.
on to that, because again, our problem is funding.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be built years ago, but the funding. Do we qualify as a special district? to be able to borrow that money if they were in? Okay.
And so, you know, yeah, 2 hangars were built for 1.7, so you'd say each of them cost 0.85, 850,000 or so, but you know what, the more you build, the
$60 a
less.
square foot.
Right, is that what you calculated?
Yeah.
Square foot? Okay, so, basically, okay, let's say we just wanted to build a row of hangars that would be 22, 24, or I mean 14 or 12 hangars. We could build a 12 hangar unit for like 850,000 or less or whatever. And so this is including everything. And yeah, it's 2019, so the costs are different in that respect. But what's the, when we lease hangars nowadays, what's the per square foot lease rate?
Right now, depending on how the direction, we start at 250 and 300 per month, and then $50 for humidity.
Okay.
Like it has creative power, the ones that have air conditioning,
Okay.
and then directional, and that's for the first 1,000 square feet, and then it's like $40 or $50 for each 100.
Okay, so 1,000 square feet for a T hangar space with electricity.
300.
What would the monthly
25 to
cost be
30
then?
cents.
The monthly cost would be about what?
250 to 300.
Okay,
Today?
what they paid in
Well,
that.
that's cheap.
Right.
Not according to the list, it's
Right.
not there.
But if you're familiar with the Vacaville, California, like halfway between San Francisco and Sacramento, so it's kind of a semi-farm rural area country. So it's a popular airport, obviously, for that, but somehow the Vacaville airport said, hey, let's build some hangars. And so the last general aviation hangar built at Mojave was Corey Bird, that was 15 or so years ago.
I thought it was like 30, but
No.
Okay. Yeah, okay, right. So it's kind of like all the airports I go to, they're always building hangars, and I'm trying to still understand, well, we're not building hangars here.
Mhm.
And these are all county owned and everything. There's no private in. Actually, these 2 hangars over here were built since I was there, and those are privately owned hangars type of thing. So you got a combination of the airport put money into those hangars, personal came over here, and it's done, and they had to do all the pavement, and they had drainage, and talking to a airport manager, they had some extra things that they did. They have a bathroom on one of them, and the electrical and all over, but this went from, basically a piece of property to a hangar in a year. And okay, wow, that's good. And so what do we need to do to get something like that going at Mojave Airport?
Is it a fair assumption then that those would be prevailing rates with the county, right? Yeah. The public living,
So, I mean, Caltran provides loans. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of capital, but what's the proposal for, hey, let's build a unit of 12. We'll prepare that surface and then build 12 hangars, T hangars like that were intended to be like that property, and then just invest $1 million or whatever in that, or get a $500,000 loan and put capital in to build that.
Mm-hmm. It's
And-
about a 12-year payback.
Right. Is that what it
With
is?
our rates. Yeah.
Okay. But it's just, I'm just so, that day that I sat out there and I saw this happening, it's just, I'm going, wow. These hangars probably hark back 60 years or more, and they withstand all the wind of Mojave in there, so they were good structure, but just to tear them down is just kind of.
No, they didn't. I was in one.
didn't the door blow off in a windstorm between us condemning
Well,
each other?
they didn't lock. They had pins that they didn't lock in. That's why that happened. That actually smashed into an F5 also in the front row.
Did not hear about
They
that.
didn't have the pins in place,
Yeah.
so
You secure the doors.
They were
Right.
moved from anything.
I mean, the Vacaville is in California, so they met all the codes of California.
Yeah, it's very disappointing if they can move those from Inyokern we couldn't move that end hangar, which was a
Right.
really nice asset, just
Yeah,
100 yards.
Right.
It would be making.
Dan did it, and Al Hansen did it.
okay.
Dan Hansen did it.
So I'm not, the focus wasn't, why'd we do this? It's like, why don't we do this?
Right.
And that's about all. And I'm up for any questions or any daggers or whatever you want. But part of my being a board of director is let's bloom the airport. But during my time, 13 hangars have been torn down, and no shovel has been in the ground to build new hangars. So I'm promoting, let's build some hangars.
I'm completely aligned with your message, Chuck.
Okay.
I would also like to see this happen, and we've emphasized that to the previous management, and hopefully it's something that we can make happen. I mean, it's not the only focus of the airport, obviously. We've got bigger anchor tenants that need addressing and their needs and future provisions for them as well. But, just last week, there was a new experimental airplane towed here from Georgia that's, soon going to be making a first flight, hopefully, that is in one of those small hangars.
That SR replica?
I don't want to say, because maybe they don't want to promote what they're doing right now.
And, okay.
So, I mean, it's, our mission statement is foster, world premier civilian flight test. And there's frequently people I know some other folks that are building Reno air racers, experimental aircraft that are going to leave the airport because, they're shopping around for hangar space at Fox and attachment.
I have many that have went to
Yeah, and I know a lot of businesses that have left here. That
Rosemont, Skypark,
Rosemont, Tehachapi.
So,
Because it's cheaper? Bigger?
I'd like to know, but
Posture.
yeah,
It varies. From
part of it was
person.
the way a tenant was being treated by the airport.
yeah, that too, and that's previous leadership quite a while ago. But
So let's try to attract those people back and attract more. The next bird retain is driving around right now trying to find airport.
Well, I think we're headed down the right path, and we have to have a building site. I think there's a good potential of attracting a developer. Versus just to fund the speed of the project.
We're going to get an update when your CEO report.
And again, in funding, that's always been the issue, is funding. Caltrans does a loan like that, that's a huge.
I'm proposing the airport builds hangars, and we don't need a private entity to come in.
We don't have to.
I disagree.
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I mean, we can have that discussion at the next budget review, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We can, include that as part of the discussion.
Okay, let's say we had $1 million for a budget for a row of one of these hangars. We put 500 of our own capital and get a loan for 500 somewhere.
That's the question. Someone.
Okay, well,
I agree with you. I'm
But-
not disagreeing.
at the same time, I was trying to save those 13 hangars that were torn down, and no plans were set in stone to, hey, we're building new hangars. We're doing a lot of talking about building new hangars, but I want to see
So do I.
the CAT vehicles prepare the hangars.
So do I.
And so I'm at the point where let's not wait till the next meeting to talk about it more. Let's make something happen now. Let's get the budget in place and start doing it. Because before this, I don't know how many years they probably had to figure out.
They started, there was an article written in 2017 discussing their plans. So I know that they took at least from when they announced to the public that they were going to do this, that it took them at least 2 years before they started moving dirt.
Okay.
So it's overall, a 3-year process then?
I think it depends. Like that site right there, I don't know what improvements needed to occur in order to get it buildable. But it just based on the research that I did, there was an article in 2017 announcing the airport's intention to build hangars. So we do know that it took at least 2 years until they started moving dirt to get everything lined up.
That'd be 1 year though, if it's 2017.
You said it was 2019 that you saw?
No,
No,
19 is where they,
19 started.
this is late
Oh,
18.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Now, and I don't know if they did the designs by then when they made the announcement. One of the challenges we have is the airport manager that's there now is new, and so we don't have that history. We have a little bit of information, but not the entire history.
What do you mean by design?
The actual
Like the
design and
dirt work
engineering,
design or the buildings?
both. Yeah.
Well, the buildings are prefab.
yeah,
They're pre-engineered.
you can buy kits.
You don't need an architect or an engineer to do those.
I don't know if those buildings were though.
Sure they are.
Right, yeah, they're all the California codes and everything. And
Yeah.
you Google search build a hangar and they'll sell you all these kits for hangars. And they'll say, what codes do you need? And you put California in and they'll present something like this. So there doesn't need any new design for hangars that's existing out there. So we just need to say, hey, let's build a row to start out our trial basis. Let's build a row, maybe two, but we'll learn from that. We've learned from Bacaville building hangars.
So that sounds like that should be part of your next special meeting hunt is, hey, that timeline you gave us, does that include designing ground up hangars or does that include prefab that already has codes complied with? You know, would that change the timeline or were they counting on that already?
I think maybe a good approach is we look and find the money to do this. And we'll go from there. But if it's falls short or feels challenging, I think a good compromise that might be a logical way to go is we fund and do all the dirt work and the concrete, and we do like half the hangars, but the other ones are prepared with the foundations ready to go for a developer to, so that they see that we're doing it, and so that the risk is a lot lower because, you know, it's already, the concrete work's done. It's just a matter of someone wants to invest and pay to put the buildings in, and then they can do some customizing based on what they think, you know, the potential tenants would want.
And we do have $750,000 budgeted this year, so that's what we're putting towards. Floyd's moving forward with the water line movement because that's step one. So we do have that budgeted this year. So that is actually already budgeted, and we're kind of moving forward with that piece of it.
Well, if you did the crude math on something like this, one row of hangars would cost less than $1 million. So that's a lot of the way there.
Yeah, we got to add, you know, the cost of moving the water main, right? That sounds like that wasn't a challenge that they had with this.
But I don't think that's a prerequisite. It can be done in parallel.
To some degree, yeah, but some of it needs to be done in advance, right? That's where the
Well,
presentation
it's
is.
not.
The existing water line underneath this area where we're intending to build doesn't need to be moved.
No,
at all.
but
And they can build
additional
on
needs
top
to be
of
built.
it.
We don't do that.
He told us we didn't need to remove that water line.
We need,
Okay.
we need to survey it.
Okay.
We have, it's undetermined, but
Mhm.
it may be able to stay there, maybe it would be there.
Okay.
We don't.
So
That,
there's
that
been,
water line work.
yeah.
Agreed. Part of that.
But the short length that the water goes through our intended area is 15% or so of the whole project.
There's been, there may not have been any generally aviation hangars built in the last 15 years, but there's been an awful lot of other commercial buildings put in on this airport in that time frame.
Correct.
Strata launch, the rocket test sites. So there's no shortage of examples of the time. And I guess, you know, every site is unique in certain requirements like plumbing issues, wiring, and all that. But as far as code and the bureaucracy, you know, unless it's changed significantly, we've got some examples of some very motivated.
Problem to fund.
Well, my point is that there's some very motivated people who wanted to be on the airport who went out and did this on their own, and that's a good template as to, you know, we're a government entity that's maybe doesn't move quite as fast, but that's a target that we could at least achieve as a, you know, we'd hope to be able to do as well. So my point is, you know, there's been, as well as bids, that things that didn't even happen, like out of the rocket test sites where, you know, new buildings and installations were proposed with budgets and schedules. So we've got a lot of history there of Whitting Hills Test Site, Straddle Launch, Virgin Galactic, all that have done improvements.
I don't agree that we don't have the money. We already have 750 in place. So that's a row of
No,
hangers
I
right
agree
there.
with starting on the infrastructure
Mhm.
and another 750 next year.
Okay.
That gets some of the infrastructure done.
Okay.
And I think it's more attractive to get it developed to the point maybe we can attract an outside developer.
See, now we've talked that way for decades now about that.
And we had one.
We talking about it, but why don't we do it?
Why don't we do both? And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is if we can afford it, maybe we do some of it. And that
Right.
also makes it much more attractive to the developer to say, look, the airport's doing it.
Okay.
Yep.
We
Why-
just said we don't have enough funds to do all the roads, but we put in the pavement and the infrastructure, the power, all that stuff.
Why not a row of hangars for 12 units that is in the $1 million budget? Why not start that?
because
Okay.
it comes to return on your investment, and there's a many better use other places, matching FAA
Okay,
funds, infrastructure, repairs.
And down in the front row. Don't laugh at me.
Okay,
That was $1 million worth of hangars that were torn down. That's kind of budget in the opposite way. We lost $1 million worth of hangars by tearing those down. One we could have sold for. If you would have put that structure in open bids,
well, I don't.
please. I'm not saying anything funny to you. Why am I being laughed at?
I agree with
Okay,
you, John.
but we lost $1 million in hangars.
That doesn't fix the problem now.
Okay,
Let's move ahead like we're planning.
okay. Planning is talk, and we'll plan it every meeting. Why don't we do
We've got
something?
action going,
Okay.
I believe.
Right. We've been working with Mead and Hunt. We've had a presentation with Mead and Hunt, and that's a part of the necessary step to go forward. So, and we'll get more details from Tim when his report comes, so we can talk about what's next and if there is something actionable now, or if we're waiting on Mead and Hunt, we'll be figuring
I
out.
don't know how many hangars being Hunt's built, but we have a Lockville Airport that's built hangars, and they can recommend places to go.
Yeah, I was very disappointed in that presentation we had last time. It seemed like maybe the guy was told last minute, hey, give the board an update. And they haven't really made any progress. And so we just threw something together because there was nothing at that time substantial whatsoever. That everything was, well, this is all draft. It's all tentative. It's, in other words, they didn't have any actual numbers whatsoever. Any more so than the hour of research Chuck did to put this together. And it's just, ballpark dollars per square foot. And that was the extent of, you explained the plumbing issue, and it was worthwhile to have that discussion, but I don't think it was a meaningful, like, here's what we've learned, and here, it's all, well, we'll get back to you when we have all the details,
I think that Mead and Hunt did a good job with what they were instructed to do. The board, as far as I know, has not touched on the subject, or at least as long as I've been here, on what direction we want to go. It's only been the last month or so that it's been expressed that this is a priority. And so Mead and Hunt came in and said, and I told them, look, here's the direction we need to go. How can we start this process? And I think that's why it is very empty what they present, because it's like saying, hey, here's the direction that you guys can go, but we need to have a contract in place and have them start working on the plans. They just had preliminary designs. I don't know, has the board moved forward with Mead and Hunt in the past, prior to when I came here, with intention of designing and building this structure? I don't think so. I think the board's doing a great job at identifying the problem and recognizing this is a priority, and I can't agree more with the board. But I think that we just haven't had we haven't gotten to that point where we said this is what we're going to do, and then here's when we're going to do it. And so I think that's why their presentation was kind of lacking, because they're kind of just saying, hey, okay, here's, generally speaking, jumping off point. This is what we need to do.
It wasn't intended as a criticism of them. It was here's a taste, and it's superficial and very disappointing that other than stimulating some conversation, we didn't have more meat to work with.
So is the next step then put them on contract for something a bit more pointed?
Well, I do have their contract to work on the, and I was going to brief on this actually. Proposal engineering services for the water main relocation and new hangar development engineering services proposal is in progress. They should have that to us by the 19th.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's a more detailed proposal?
Right.
By the 19th of December or January?
December.
Okay, great. Okay, so I guess we'll ask more questions about that when you give your report. Director Coleman, did you have anything else for us?
No, I just, the day they started tearing the hangars down, I go, let's build some new hangars. Here we are 2 years later, and we're still talking about it. We don't have anything in place to build hangars. And I'm not trying to be funny to anybody, but the reality is every airport I've ever been associated with are building hangars. Why is Mojave not building hangars? We're tearing hangars down. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you for the research and presentation. Are there any comments from members of the public on Director Coleman's presentation? Okay, on to reports. Who's doing Director of Administration today?
That's me.
That's you. Have that.
Just have a couple things just want to update and touch base with you guys on. The State of the County dinner in Bakersfield is on January 31st. So if anyone's interested in going, just let me know. That'll determine if we're going to get a table or just buy individual tickets. So, okay.
Is this something that it's good to have more than one representative or only send one? What do we usually do in this?
Typically a few staff go and a couple board members go. So that's what in the past, it's been different each year. Some years we get a table, some years just a couple people go, but yeah, so that's January 31st. So we have a little bit of time. You know, I did not print that flyer, but I'll forward it out to the directors. Yeah, they're typically in Bakersfield. I just wanted to provide you on an audit update. I am still working with our auditors. They implemented a new GASB 87, which kind of came as it's on our contracting. So it's government accounting that we have to actually do that. So I'm working with them. So that should be wrapped up here, hopefully in the next month or so. So it was quite the undertaking for something we didn't have in place that now it's a requirement.
What does that mean?
We have to document all of our contracts that we have that are longer than a year. And to anticipate the revenue that we'll be getting from those contracts. So we had over 100 contracts that fell under.
Sorry.
So we've got a software, so we've been plugging it in. So we are working through getting that finalized.
Thanks for turning through that. I know that's not exciting.
Just to do the journal entry. Yeah, it's going to be like 4 lines of accounting information for all that entry, but we're going to get there. And then once we have our 5th board member in place, I was going to bring Mission Bank out. Rather than you guys have to go to the bank since they're in Lancaster, she'll come out to update all the signers on the account. So to include Tim, because right now we're limited on the check signers.
Right.
But every time we make one change, we have to change everybody. So rather than do 4 changes between now and then, we'll wait till the new year and she'll come out to a meeting when I know everyone will be present. So we'll do that.
It's disappointing we left Mojave.
Yeah. Yeah, and their hours even changed to 10 to 4 now. So luckily we don't have to do a lot of, I only physically go to the bank about once a month. So that's not too bad. And I live in the Olive Valley. So it's just kind of on my way home. But yeah, it was unfortunate. Well, on to the financials. This is for October, or for the month of October 31st. Bank balance increased $400,000. Operating revenue, we're at 36%, and operating expenses, we're at 28%. So we're right on track with our budget up to this point. Fuel sales, we had 91,000 gallons sold. On the AR, over 90 days is Dean Sost. Since I did the report, he did come in today and made a payment of $350. So he did bring us a payment today. So we're continuing to work with that. He has assured us he's going to be removing the other aircraft he has down there. He's working on it at this time. The Queen Air, yeah. Fitness Center's at 503 members.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm hoping, after in January, everybody wants to go back to the gym. That's when everybody joins. So hoping that increases in January. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Any comments from members of the public? Thank you so much, Carrie. Okay, Director of Public Safety and Security. Is that you today, Chris?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry it's been a while since I've been able to address the board. Schedule has been a little hectic, but here we are. Just some updates. On November 4th, we held our first semi-annual safety and security meeting over at the event center. Director Coleman was able to attend that with us. We went over just some of the completed and upcoming equipment upgrades in security, changes to the access control policies, some other items, as well as the mass notification system and our community watch program. We supported the Mojave Fitness Center's Run the Runway 5K event. That was a mixture of security, air traffic control, and ARF. Overall, the event went very well, and I think the last person came in just shy of an hour. Our ARF has their fire extinguisher training equipment in, and we'll be using it for the first time tomorrow for our tenants doing some fire extinguisher training. We attended the Touch Truck event on November 13th up in Tehachapi. This event benefits the Junior Rodeo Association of Tehachapi. Fire Chief Damian Farrar took Rescue One up, had it on display with compartments open, showing tools, getting the kids excited for it. We learned a few things, and we hope to attend again next year with a little bit larger display and more stuff for the public. And then a couple of new employees recently, Brianna in security and Brett at the ARF station with ProTech. Any questions from the board?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I think you're up next, Tim.
All right, Madam President, members of the board. A brief update. Last week, both Johannes Loschnig, who's one of our consultants to help me out with some of the political aspects of working with the state, both of us went up to Sacramento to talk to our state assembly members, at least their staff, to present them with a list of our priorities that we're asking for state assistance if they can build it into the budget for the following year. We did meet with Assemblyman Lackey's office, Assemblymember Fong Mirasachi, I hope I got that right, and Senator Graves' office, and did forward a list of priorities for their consideration. At the top of the list is, of course, the runway 1230 rehabilitation of the remaining 25-foot sides, to see if the state could break some funding loose and help us out with that pavement. We are planning to invite the assembly members to and their staff out to the airport for a tour this early spring. We did touch on the GA hangar improvement update, but me and Hunt did come out 2 weeks ago. They're on site. They inspected the water system in preparation for their water system modeling project, and they are in the process of building and refining that model, which is a separate project in addition to relocation of the water line that we were discussing earlier. Let's see here, the power grid update. I'm working with Concentric right now and legal to consider adoption of a resolution to enable the district to operate as a public utility, much like Monterey Regional Airport has done in the past for a similar project. There's some back and forth on this right now. I'm working obviously with Scott to see if that's something that's doable. According to Concentric, it is. The reason why we need it is because essentially, if we do build our own power grid, we have to be able to regulate the power that's generated and provide it to our tenants. I've had some conversation with Floyd. I think we need to get this narrowed down first. We're doing the groundwork now in preparation for taking the next step with Concentric, which will be going into the next phase, which is how do we engineer, how do we install the natural gas generators or the solar panels and electric production. So I am working on that in the background. I just wanted to give you guys an update. There's the GA rate study. AMCG reported they're progressing well with this study, and they're in the process of data collection and targeting completion by the end of December as planned. And finally, the hypersonic flight corridor update. We are moving forward with the development of the overland hypersonic testing corridor from the R2508 complex to the broad ocean area. We briefed and proposed the corridor utilization of the National Traffic Management Center and the manager of the ATCO Central Altitude Reservation Function Space Operations, and Joshua Center, as well as the Western Service Center. We have briefed Pam Underwood, who's with the FAA AST office, and we're currently working on a concept of operations in preparation brief, the R2508 control board, hopefully scheduled for next month. And that's all I have. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And the Thunderbirds. Okay, so we were looking forward to having the Thunderbirds come out here for wintertime practice last week of January, first week of February. Unfortunately, we did hit a snag. The Thunderbirds did put in for a TFR request, TFR being temporary flight restriction for those of you who aren't pilots. The FAA issues that temporary flight restriction, but according to the FAA, and this is a technicality, they denied the Thunderbirds the TFR request because to justify a TFR for aerial demonstration, it has to be in preparation for an aerial event, like an air show. We exercised every option we could, including I had a meeting this morning with Kevin McCarthy's office with the FAA, and the FAA is steadfast in their way that they can't issue the TFR.
And TFR has to be issued for the site where the air show is going to be? I mean,
yes.
Okay.
And so what I...
We are practicing for an air show.
It's
not at this site.
Right. And so, and I did call them out on that because thanks to Director Barney's recommendation, it's like, well, hey, can't we just hold an air show here on the last day that they're practicing?
Exactly.
And the FAA paused. They had to think about it for a second. It was 9 people at headquarters, FAA headquarters, and then they go, well, it would still have to get approved through our offices. I said, okay, but it doesn't, according to the reg, it doesn't say how many days of preparation, but it just says it has to be in preparation for an event. They still said no. So McCarthy's office said that they'll work with us. They'll review the regulations, see if there's anything that they can work on in the near future, especially with the reauthorization bill. But at this time, we can't host Thunderbirds because they can't accept anything other than a TFR to protect the airspace. So unfortunately, they will be going to Spaceport America, which they have restricted airspace above that airport and won't have that issue.
But for the
I'd like
record,
to make a point that waivered airspace, you can do aerobatics in, just you're not complying with like the altitude and the speeds and all that. That's commonly made to me. I used to hold a waivered airspace at Mojave Airport a while ago, and that's legal to do that. And then they have air shows, but the day before the air shows is the practice air show. That's not really an air show. It's a TFR air show. And so I think the FAA people you're talking to are maybe misinformed about the regulations. So I think you should go through whatever channels to get that, because
I've exercised every avenue.
Waivered airspace can happen all the time. It can happen every day. You know? So them saying it's not an air show doesn't make any practicality to FAA regulations.
What's the difference between waivered airspace and TFR?
So they're 2 different mechanisms.
And the reason I say that, quote unquote, the Thunderbirds have to have a TFR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just
Well, the functional
It's
difference between
not
the
just a
waivered
waiver,
airspace
okay.
and the TFR would be a TFR prevents other traffic, waivered airspace, well, other people can still use it.
Okay.
So it just permits you to use it, but doesn't prevent others, which I think is what.
Would they be going beyond the 5 mile or the Class Delta airspace?
Because our Class Delta airspace extends 4.3 miles, and they need a 5 mile total radius.
So 4.3 isn't good enough.
No.
Well, even then, I don't know that a Delta would be sufficient, right? Because with my J3, I'm allowed to show up, no radio, fly in the pattern until I see light guns, which isn't going to be compatible with Thunderbird usage.
Well, the NOTAM should keep that at the airspace if it's that way.
If they require a TFR.
Yeah, which yeah, you could note them at close, but if they require a TFR. But for the record, the Thunderbirds picked us as their favorite location, and we are better than Spaceport America in the Thunderbirds' eyes. And this is terribly frustrating that the FAA wouldn't play ball with what really should be an FAA function. But I'm glad to hear that McCarthy's office is also like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and you know, and I don't want to villainize the FAA. They're doing their job. If they're flexible for us, I imagine that they're concerned that other people would want them to be flexible as well. And the Thunderbirds did express that we are by far, out of all the airports they have to work with nationwide, one of the best that they've worked with. So we do take credit for that at least, but unfortunately we just can't make it work, at least this year.
You came with the anti-Spisto. Is that?
They were part of the discussion. Yeah.
He said it was the FISDO is the one who gets to make the call in TFRs, right? They're the ones who hold the authority.
No, it's another office. I can't remember off the top of my head what office makes the decision on TFR. The FISDO's involved because they are the ones that will actually come out here and make sure that the Thunderbirds are compliant to the regulations.
But the FISDO isn't the one that issues TFR. They just enforce compliance with it.
Right.
Okay.
And you know that there's been a TFR over Disneyland for 21 years now.
I am well aware of that one.
No, but I mean, that's kind of a saying, okay, TFR is every day in existence. You know, why can't we? It's not every day, it's some days.
And I expressed to the FAA, I said, I really wish there was a mechanism in place that could provide the level of protection that would protect, it's not just the Thunderbirds, but the general aviation community as well. That wouldn't be defined as a TFR because they want to reserve TFRs for very specific events. And I don't know, I have hopes that maybe McCarthy's office can work with them to come up with a solution so this won't be a problem in the future.
Yeah, I wish I did a little more research to prepare for this, but there is another type of protected airspace that I don't know if the Thunderbirds would be amenable to, because clearly TFR isn't the only mechanism they're okay with, since restricted also cover it. There's a type of temporary restricted. There's a debate about connecting two big restricted areas that the general aviation community was opposed to. They wanted to allow overflight of either like missiles or drones or something like that. They didn't want to use TFR. But this other type of protected airspace they wanted to use, it doesn't propagate to things like ForeFlight and graphical displays as well as TFRs, which is why, okay, no, as a general aviator, we're a lot more likely to miss it if it's not something that shows up in a graphical display. I'm going to try and figure out what type of airspace that is to see if that would be an option maybe in the future, because it's like a temporary restricted. So, I don't know if
shoot fireworks off.
I think that, yeah, one FAA guy that's opposed to this and he's holding his ground. The general FAA rules should allow Thunderbirds to practice here. It's an MOA also, so the military airspace can have some involvement.
You know, what's interesting is that all the entities that were affected we've been working with over the last couple of months, and everybody was thumbs up. I mean, thankfully, even Edwards Air Force Base Command, the OG, that stands for Operation General, not OG, as I thought it did originally.
original gangster.
Yeah, I did. I asked them that. But no, I'm confident that McCarthy's office will work with us to try to see if there's a resolution that can take place. But it's just not going to happen in time to allow for this practice to occur.
Well, thanks for trying to run that down, Tim. I know it's unsatisfying that we weren't able to host the Thunderbirds this time around. I know you put a lot of effort into it, and so thank you to all the staff that supported you to try and make it happen. So here's hoping that in the future we can figure out something so the Thunderbirds can really be where they want to be. So.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else, Justin?
No, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Members of the public, any questions for Tim? No. Okay, we don't have any standing board committees. Oh, yes, we do.
Next meeting, we cancel?
Yeah, so I was gonna direct your comments
Okay,
not on the
yeah.
agenda, but yeah, thank you for the reminder though. Yeah, so we don't have any standing board committees. I don't see a need to stand any up at this time. So on to item 6, director comment. It's not an item. It's not on the agenda, which I'd like to make this our last meeting of the year, barring anything really remarkable coming up to allow people to enjoy the holidays. Because I don't think the 20th is a time where we should drag everybody in. Everybody should be able to go enjoy.
So we're not going to give any update about the meat hunt.
And we can call a special meeting too, if that's something that we want to do, or we can hold that regular meeting during the holidays.
I don't see a reason to cancel the meeting myself. It's the 19th. It's well before Christmas.
I'm good either way. It doesn't have to.
Is staff going to be on all day that time? Are we going to have?
The 19th, the 20th meeting, that'd probably be a little better than if we were to cancel on the 3rd, January 3rd, I think would be more of a crunch time for staff, just because we're closed.
I think we can meet on the third.
Okay.
I'd rather just meet for the 20th, but for the third, I'll do it.
Okay. But are we going to have staff available to support the meeting on the 20th?
Yeah.
All right. Jim, you said you're good either way. Chuck, you said you'd like to hold it. Bob, do you have strong opinions?
Yep. I can do that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'll be in town, so it's not gonna my nose. We generally cancel it for the sake of the staff. Is that gonna be heartache? Are folks gonna mostly be on vacation? You guys build support? Are we likely to hear something from Eden Home? And then you said we're supposed to get back to this 19th, so.
Yeah, there's a chance we could. Yeah,
Also, the rent review, are they gonna have it?
I'm going to give them till the end of the month on that one.
Mhm.
But just think about it. There's a good chance me and Hunt will, if they say the 19th, I might have it for the board meeting, but it's not going to be in the board packet.
Oh, that's a very good point. We need the 72 hours, don't we?
Would the board like to just monitor? So we can come in?
Oh, well, that's a possibility because there's always a chance they could get back to us early. So what would a sensible way to handle that? Because if we knew for a fact we weren't getting anything from Meet and Hunt, I don't see a compelling reason to hold the meeting. If there is a chance, it's probably good to have that opportunity to review and keep that moving. So monitor sounds good to me. Make the decision 72 hours out. If we haven't gotten anything, we call it canceled. Wish everybody happy holidays. Would that follow what you're hoping for, Chuck?
I'm going to be in Mojave board night too, so I'm going to go to Fox available.
Well, so it's meeting's the 20th. Will you be
20th?
20th?
I'm available that day too.
Okay.
And so,
Tell them we want
what's that?
it. I said, tell them we want it on the 20th.
Oh, 72 hours in advance so that we can have it on the agenda.
Well, tell them they're gonna have it. You can get enough information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put you on the spot. I kind of agree with Chuck. I'm tired of waiting too.
How about we monitor then? All right.
It's what
That's great. Okay. I think that was, do we have any other comments for items not on the agenda? Members of the public, you already had your chance. We can have another chance. Nope. Okay, so on to closed session then, which we have a number of items.
Recording stopped.
Merry Christmas, you two. See you next year.